There are interesting parallel passages in Matthew 8, 5 through 13, and Luke 7, 1 through 10, that some modern scholars believe might present a queer positive encounter between Jesus and a Roman centurion. Before reading and explaining the passages, however, I want to make clear that a queer positive interpretation of this passage is only one possible interpretation. There is no way to prove one way or the other whether the Roman centurion was sexually attracted and attached to his servant boy in the story. But it is a fair interpretation, and one I think makes much sense in light of the historical and linguistic particularities of the passages. I will read the story from Matthew 8, 5 through 13, explain some minor differences in Greek terminology between the two passages in Matthew and Luke, and finally explain why I think a queer interpretation of the passage makes sense. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside, into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And this servant was healed at that moment. The Greek word used to refer to the servant boy in Matthew is pais, P-A-I-S. The common lexical definition of this word is child or child servant. Matthew uses pais throughout the passages to describe the boy, whereas Luke uses two Greek terms, doulos, meaning slave, and pais, as defined above. I would like to present two basic reasons why I believe this story refers to same-sex relations between the Roman centurion and the servant boy. First, as I have stated before in other posts, it is imperative to understand how a Greek term was used in the historical period and cultural environment in which the word was used. While modern Greek lexicons, for the most part, do not include a sexual element to the definition of pais, it is necessary to ask how contemporaries of the Gospel writers and the larger ancient Greek culture thought of the term. Dr. Kenneth Dover, a respected authority on ancient Greek culture and former Chancellor of the University to St. Andrews, Scotland, remarks in his book entitled Greek Homosexuality. The pais in a homosexual relationship was often a youth who had attained full height, on page 16. And the junior partner in homosexual eros is called pais, even when he has reached adult height and hair has begun to grow on his face, page 85. Dr. Robert Gagnon, a leading conservative scholar, professor, and graduate of Yale Divinity School, states in his book, The Bible and Homosexual Practice, boy, pais, could be used of any junior partner in a homosexual relationship, even one who was full grown. Page 153, footnote 6. In addition to these modern biblical scholars, writers in ancient Greek culture used the word pais to refer to the younger male in a homosexual relationship. Some such writers were Thucydides in History of the Peloponnesian War, Eupolis, Aeschines in Against Timarchus, Plato in Symposium, and Plutarch in Life of Pelopidas. So it is evident that the common use of the term in ancient Greek culture had a homosexual connotation, and the story in the Gospel of Luke presents us with another common Greek term, doulos, which could have solely been used had the author desired to refer only to a slave with no other idiomatic meaning. Second, I find it interesting that a powerful Roman centurion would have cleared his busy schedule to seek out the healing powers of a Jewish rabbi if the boy in question was simply a common slave. Surely the Roman centurion would not have worried so much about a common slave, since finding a replacement would not have presented a problem. On the other hand, if there was a special relationship between the centurion and the boy, a love that prodded the centurion to find healing for his love at any cost, the story makes much more sense. Slaves were not accorded very high status in ancient times. For the centurion to make the effort to achieve healing for this boy, it is likely that the boy meant something far more to the centurion than any normal slave would have meant. Then we read of Jesus' interaction with the centurion. Assuming this centurion and pais were homoerotically involved, had Jesus held strongly anti-homosexual opinions, this would have been the opportune time for Jesus to voice those opinions. Rather, we read of Jesus commending the centurion for his faith and sending him off with a promise that his pais would be healed. Could Jesus have recognized the love the centurion had for the boy, and in his act of healing blessed such love? Considering the cultural and linguistic evidence, I do not think this interpretation is far-fetched. In the next post, I will address Jesus' teaching on eunuchs in Matthew 19:11-12. Until then, peace be with you, and as always, feel free to email me with any questions or comments at gaychristianteens@gmail.com. God bless.